Hi, and welcome to today's mini lesson on the SCR, otherwise known as the short constructed response. So when you encounter the SCR question on your STAR test, you will notice that there is a concise prompt instructing you to read the question carefully and enter your answer in the provided box. It will also specify that you need to support your response with text evidence. So the picture on the right shows an example of how this would look on the STAR test. You can notice that there is a shorter question, the answer box is a lot smaller, and the character limit is limited to 475 characters. This is different than the extended constructed response or the ECR. This is very short. You need only about 3 or 4 sentences for this one. It focuses on rephrasing the question, answering the question, and then providing one piece of evidence. All right, so let's look at the rubric. For the SCR, a 2 is well done. You did this correctly. So the response correctly answers the question of the prompt. Specific evidence is cited, or you can paraphrase from the text, but you use specific evidence from the text, and then the response and the evidence are based on the text. For a number 2, you will need to have answered the question correctly. Then a number 1 just needs some work. So the response partially or inaccurately answers the question of the prompt, or the evidence does not support the response, or none is provided. So a part of this is being able to choose the right evidence that supports your response. And then we have a 0. This needs lots of work because the response is either incorrect or the response is not based on the text, or no response is provided and the answer is left blank. Okay, so for our assignment, we're going to be looking at characterization in the most dangerous game. So you'll have 2 assignments for this. You'll get a minor assignment grade for the Foursquare for the SCR. This is like the planning piece. And then the major grade is the SCR paragraph. So you will choose either to write about Rainsford or General Zaroff. So let's look at the options that you have. Option number 1, the prompt is, how does General Zaroff justify his sport? What does this tell you about his character? Explain, citing evidence from the text. And then option number 2, what personal traits aid Rainsford's survival? Explain, citing specific evidence and examples from the text. All right, so let's look at what a Foursquare is and the parts of the Foursquare. So as you notice on the screen, there's a box with 4 squares. That's easy. You can draw this on a piece of paper. On the STAR test, you get scratch paper. So this is something you could easily draw on the whole piece of paper. All right, so the first box is going to be the claim. And in here, you're going to rephrase and answer the prompt. The next box is your evidence. So here you're going to provide evidence from the text that supports your claim. Next, we have reasoning. This reasoning is you connecting the text evidence to your claim. So how does the text evidence support your claim? And then lastly, this last box is optional, but it's really good to practice this at least. So we have a negation. A negation is an if-then statement. So if this were to happen, then this happened. And I will give an example of this when we get to this last box. And then you could also choose to wrap it up with an in the end and just kind of wrap up your whole paragraph. That would make 5 sentences. You only need 3 sentences for this, and that's why the negation is optional. But when it comes to the grading of this, claim, evidence, and reasoning. So if you were only to do the claim and evidence correctly, that would be a 70. Claim, evidence, and reasoning would be an 85. And then claim, evidence, reasoning, and negation, if done all correctly, would be a 100. So you could choose. I'm only going to do the minimum. Claim and evidence, that will only get you a 70. Claim, evidence, reasoning done correctly will get you an 85, which is a pretty decent grade. If you want to go even further to get that 100, then you need to add in the negation. And this will only help you on the STAR test and on other writing projects and assignments. All right, so let's look at an example. I chose a prompt for this example that y'all are not going to do, but you can kind of see how I've done this and use my example as a way to write yours. Okay, so my prompt is, what is one conflict Rainsford experiences in the most dangerous game? All right, so one thing I know I need to have in my answer is I need a conflict, and I need that conflict to be something that Rainsford experiences. So my claim for this, I'm going to use the prompt as the beginning of my answer. So I'm going to say, one conflict in the most dangerous game is when General Zaroff won't let Rainsford leave the island unless he plays and wins the game. So as you can see, the prompt is being used when I say one conflict in the most dangerous game is when, and then the second part of that is my answer. The conflict is that General Rainsford won't let Rainsford leave the island unless he plays and wins the game. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and put that in my Foursquare in the claim box, exactly like that. And now it is your turn. So in a complete sentence, like the one I have made as an example, you need to rephrase the prompt that you choose and answer the question. This Foursquare is on Canvas as an assignment, but you could also do this on paper if you choose to handwrite it. On the STAR, you won't have an option to do it on the computer, so I would want to emphasize that you might want to use paper, but if you'd rather type, that's fine too. All right, so let me know if you have any questions or concerns about this, if you need some help, and I look really forward to reading y'all's claims.